So thank you so much. Definitely we've heard that this journey of us meeting here has been purely a journey of consultations, and clearly from the Sustainable Development Goals last year in 2016, over 170 countries, leaders from those countries met and decided we want to commit ourselves to the implementation of the new urban agenda in Quito, Ecuador. And of course, a couple of the things that they were looking at, the Quito Declaration, the Quito Implementation Plan, and of course you have the building the urban governance structure, and ultimately you have managing urban spatial development. Well, I'm not the one who's going to give you all the details of the way forward. We have the key speakers who are ready, but before that, please put your hands together for the Safaricom Limited Head of Department, Safaricom Home and Content, Madam Nancy Matimu. Big round of applause, please.
Okay, well, you might want to wonder why Safaricom first and foremost became very interested in playing an active role as a responsible citizen towards the SDG agenda. And the fact is, if you read what our purpose is, or those of you that have followed what the purpose of Safaricom is, contrary to what many people think, it's not about the billions every April or every end of a financial year. It's about truly transforming lives. And for somebody who's worked with Safaricom over a good period, I joined Safaricom in 2008, I can tell you we are truly committed to this agenda. And the reason why we want to be committed to this agenda is that, first and foremost, we have access to a lot of information in terms of profiles of the people of this country, in terms of the way our population is changing significantly. When I look around the room, as the chairman said, I'm seeing a lot of people who don't represent the median age of Kenyans, which happens to be 19 years old. So there's possibly not even a 19, is there a 19-year-old in the room? No. Okay. So when we are planning, we need to take in mind and into consideration that we are actually planning for a very young generation. So when we talk about spatial development, when we talk about inclusion, what are those things that are going to be relevant to them, that are actually going to provide an enabling environment for them to actually enjoy living in this environment and having put in place things that we will say we will deliver in a sustainable manner. So if I just read the specific goal, which says that it's about sustainable cities and communities, and this is about making our cities and human settlements inclusive, safe. If I just tell you what we are doing as a business, and not just necessarily as telling you what we think that you should join us to do together. We don't want to sound prescriptive, but we want to tell you the journey that we are following, which we think that you should join us in as we join the urban city planners. We used to call them city fathers back. So if I pick just on the issue of inclusive, when we say we want to build inclusive cities, what is Safaricom doing? So we talk about financial inclusion, and it's about ensuring that everybody, wherever you are at, has equal access to financial services. And that's why we have M-Pesa, and everybody knows about M-Pesa. And M-Pesa has done what we need to do. But when we come very close to home, to where we live, our houses, and that's why we have residents associations here, the things that matter to us is, are those homes livable in the context of the new agenda and the new economies? The new economy is a digital economy. It is not the economy that we had back in the day. So if it is a digital economy, and we need to build an environment that ensures that everybody gets included in this digital economy, how do we ensure that everybody has equal access to great digital solutions and basically great internet. There are 12 million households that were reported in the last study in Kenya in total, of which 2 years ago, only 3.5 million of them had TV sets, of which again, only just about 2 million or so had Kenyans that were earning about 30,000 shillings in total. Those statistics sometimes shock us. But that's because we've not been able to expand our economy, because the economy is driven by a paltry few, and those few are driving the traditional economy agenda. The new digital economy enables inclusion, and anybody, anywhere can run a business from their house. You don't have to be in an office to actually make a living. If you speak to the 19-year-olds and what they are doing, those that already have access to the internet, they're already making a lot of money. Some of them, whether they're writing applications or whether they're creating websites, or whether they are trading stocks online, they're actually already making money. So if we talk about inclusion, and we only have so few Kenyans that have access to the internet, and very few homes that have actually access to unlimited sustainable internet, we are actually doing a disservice to very many Kenyans. And that is where, when we set out the agenda to actually connect Kenyans, we said we will not connect just the Kilimanis of this world, the Kilaleshas of this world, and not just the Rundas. Our agenda is to take internet as far as we can take it, unlimited internet. Today, if you go into Lumumba Drive, just behind Thika Road Mall, if you go into Juja Estate, if you go into as far as Ngong Town, all those apartments are now beginning to get connection on fiber, on unlimited, good quality internet. And that means we are beginning to provide the environment to open up the digital economy to as many people to play as possible. And for us, that is what it means to actually drive a sustainable agenda towards making the cities livable for the young generation that is coming, the 19-year-olds that we're calling the digital natives. We're not only doing it in Nairobi, we are now in 7 cities or 7 towns. We are in Mombasa, we are in Nakuru, we are in Eldoret, we have gone into Kisumu as well, and have just started rolling out in Thika and in Nanyuki. So when we talk about an agenda that touches everybody, Safaricom is actually quite serious about it. Now, the other issue around making Kenyan cities livable, the chairman mentioned that Kenyans and land, you cannot separate them. But land is actually becoming completely unavailable. And tomorrow, there will be actually no land available for us to actually live and share the spatial spaces we enjoy today. We will either have to go upwards or reduce what? The population. The population is not in any way going anywhere. It's actually growing much faster than we had anticipated. So we will continue to see congestion growing. But why do we get congested? Or why do we think we are congested? When you're in your house, you possibly don't think you're congested. But when you get into the streets, that's when you realize that there's actually congestion. And Kenyans are spending up to 2 hours every day in the morning and 2 hours every day in the evening on a fairly normal day to get to work. On a bad day, we know in Nairobi that you can actually spend up to 4 hours to get home. And we know people who've been getting home as late as 10 p.m. and even as late as midnight, and they have to leave their houses as early as 5 a.m. So what's the role of a company like Safaricom? So it's about making homes capable of providing an environment that is going to enable you to continue work at home and to be able to even continue learning at home. So our children have to go to libraries, physical libraries, but they can sit in the house and access online portals and online material when they don't need to go to the physical library. They can access all these things are available, journals are available, books are available. So we deal with that level of congestion. Then those of us sometimes that just want to drive to the office and sit behind a desk and spend the whole day. What we say at the end of the day, meetings are not work. Actually, that's what we say in Safaricom. Work does not get done in meetings. Work is done when you start now executing the things that you have said you want to execute. A lot of those times, those things don't require you to be in a group of people. So unless you really need to travel, the modern worker is actually a digitally mobile worker. And he should be able to actually, to a great extent, continue working from home. Now, you will be amazed by the number of Kenyans that are running small side hustles from the house. I have done the study and have walked to various households in this town and other towns within Kenya. And I can tell you, unless we make that environment possible, we are actually going to see a revolution and some form of a revolt from the young people. And usually they say they're not coming to work or they're coming late. Not that they don't work. That's not true about the digital native. They actually are very good. They produce really good stuff. And those are the people that we call the millennials. But the millennial wants freedom. They want liberty of mind. They want to be able to execute in a very creative environment. Today's work environment does not provide that. You have the physical desks where you get locked up. You're forced to go for lunch between 1 and 2. Those structures don't work for the millennial. The only way you can free them up and liberate them to play an active role is to get into their life. And their life is a digital life. And that's how we shall actually then talk about making these cities livable. Now, for you, the older generation, or for us, the older generation, what matters to us is about safety, maybe about aesthetics. We also like, wherever we live, it has to look nice, it has to be organized. Now, the biggest concerns you possibly have, and some of you that may have brought to our attention, and thank you to those members here that have given us access to your estates and to your gated communities or even your apartments or flats. The biggest complaint I have is one of the quality of cabling and the amount of cables that we have. So somehow to the city fathers and the city mothers, we need to find a solution, because if we eventually have 5 different players coming in, and we have now found that taking the cable beneath and digging and trenching is not only more expensive, it is very time consuming. And a lot of the times they actually get cut up and dug up when we are doing roads. So you've seen we are doing a lot of overhead deployments using poles. Now, if you look in most areas, it's beginning to look actually very unsightly. And let me use the word ugly. It's not looking good. Because you have I come in with my pole, my competitors come with my pole, or the other players that we are working with coming with their own poles. And you also have the Kenya Power pole. And at the end of the day, you have different cables running and crossing over. It's not only unsightly, it's actually extremely poor urban development and urban planning. So we need to do something about coming together and agreeing how we're going to manage that infrastructure, just to provide the level of aesthetics and the quality of installations and deployment that needs to be done. And finally, in my closing remarks, I just want to say the other things, talk about the other bigger things that we're doing around making cities a great place to live in, and to ensure that the development that happens in those places is actually sustainable. One of the things that you don't possibly realize, when I was growing up, I grew up upcountry as well, Mr. Nyaga. I had the opportunity of growing up somewhere where there were a lot of trees and beautiful landscapes. And you could see the clear skies, and in the night you could see the stars. When is the last time you saw the stars? When is the last time you actually sighted the star in the night? I could see the Orion. I could see and I could make out the constellations. When is the last time you actually made out the constellation easily? Now, I can bet you, unless you go to upcountry, that is when you will get that experience. And the reason why we don't see it today is because of the smog and the smoke. We've just started the slow, sad journey towards where the developed cities are, where smog is a way of life, and it is terrible. You can have the most beautiful skyscrapers, you can have the greatest developments, but when the environment is polluted, it just becomes not a great place that you want to be able to live in. So some of the things that we're taking into consideration as Safaricom that we are doing actively, we are reducing the carbon emissions footprint, and we are very clear about our agenda towards clean energy. All our base stations, as much as we can, we are reducing the use of diesel and any other unclean energy. Then on top of that, what we are doing we're trying as much as possible to reduce the amount of time we travel using airlines. So Madaraka Express was a good thing for us, one, possibly. Reduces congestion, but also flying, when you don't need to fly, we're reducing that completely and ensuring that we play our active role and we actually measure it. If you look at our sustainable report that is produced every year and that's almost due now, you will actually see this statement and our commitment to this agenda. So when Mr. Nyaga says that we are truly committed to a sustainable development agenda for the new economy, the new agenda for Kenyans and all cities in Kenya, we are very serious about it. And I urge you to join all of us and let us make this country great and let us make our cities fun, exciting, and as green as the heavens that we hope to go to. Let's leave the heaven here first. Thank you very much and have a good morning.
Welcome to the digital economy. And if you don't become a digital worker, there is a disruption happening. Somebody in Switzerland, somebody in Germany is not just thinking about developing Germany, they're thinking about developing the whole world, because we live in a global village. So you may be replaced if you don't take the next staircase to become that digital global player. So thank you so much for those remarks. For now, we want to now get to that place where we listen to the key note speeches, but before